Hello beautiful, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. My name's Caitlin if you're new here. If you are looking for a beginner friendly gouache tutorial for your plan with me this month, this is the video. Last month in my April plan with me, I did a coffee shop theme and I used gouache for the first time. And it allowed me to explore the medium a little bit more, but I wanted to come up with another beginner friendly gouache tutorial for my May plan with me. And this time I went with a mushroom theme. I'm so excited because all the colors and tones go really well with one another. And if you're excited in seeing that, just keep on watching. First things first is my stationery supplies. I am grabbing my Winsor & Newton gouache paints for this bullet journal me plan with me video, and paintbrushes of course, along with different jelly rolls and micron pens to make this spread work. If you are a beginner to bullet journaling, no pressure on getting any of these supplies. Use what you have already at your house. Things like markers, colored pencils, pens, whatever you have, stickers. There's a whole bunch of stuff out there. You can even download images and print them off from online. Whatever you have on hand, that is how I started bullet journaling, and just want to remind you that if you are watching, how I did this theme for the month. So I ended up going for a mushroom theme for the month of May, and using my gouache paints, I really wanted to come up with a beginner-friendly gouache step-by-step tutorial again this month. I really loved using it in my April plan with me, and having something simple to do like my coffee shop theme, I wanted to recreate again for the month. So that is how the mushroom theme kind of came about. The one thing that I really love about gouache paint is it's opaque and very similar to what an acrylic would be, except what I find personally is gouache paint just spreads a little bit easier on the page, kind of like watercolor. So it's really a combination of the two of those things. You can add a little bit of depth to your paintings as well by adding a darker or lighter line. And I did that just on either side of the mushroom top and mushroom stem to add a little something to the spreads. Around the edge here, I came in with a pre-penciled out circle. I just grabbed what was it? I think it was my marker holder, and that made the perfect circle, and I just cut it off at the bottom to make it straight there. But grab what you have around the house. I never really end up using a circle stencil, so that is just a little tip and trick. For my mushrooms, I added a little bit more detail here with my micron pens because I wanted to add the depth to the picture that it really needed to stand out. On the left-hand side is my quote page. This month, I have not been as productive as I want. I've been a little bit more busy. And that is what I wanted this quote to end up focusing on. So it ends up saying, focus on being productive instead of busy. It's really easy, I find personally, I don't know about you, to jam-pack your day in with things that aren't really beneficial to the big picture. And whether that is with your business, family, friends, all of that, I would just like to be a little bit more productive and more mindful of where my time goes instead of just filling the day and being busy, because that is how my day kind of got away from me. If you ended up watching my monthly different calendar spread video that I let out a couple weeks ago, I ended up talking about how I wanted to switch up my layout for the month of May. And that is what I promised to do, and I am doing here. I guess you could say I cheated just a little bit because I did end up using a monthly calendar grid. It's just a little one, and it only takes up half the page. So this is not going to be a space where you can write down all of your to-do list tasks for the month. And instead, I'm going to be filling it in with things like shorter sentences or doodles, things like that. If you're really interested to see how this page turns out, I will have photos of it on my Instagram, and I'll just have my name on the page here right now so you can see it if you're interested in checking out my Instagram. The bottom half of the page is going to be dedicated for those longer list task items. So on the first of the month, I know that I would pay rent. So that would end up in one of those little box grid spots at the bottom. If you don't like the calendar on the left, you can always try this one on the right. I ended up using this calendar for my content, specifically for Instagram. And here is just where I lay out the different columns that I want to get done throughout the month for a specific category. Now, you might not have categories like I would related to Instagram, but you would have categories in your life, whether that be work, personal, maybe you want to keep track of finances or bills, maybe you're a student. Those are different categories that you could section off in your calendar each month. Along the side, you just have the number of the week, and up at the top, you have your categories. So for me, I have things like the date I want to post, the idea, how I'm posting, photo, reel, story, all of that. And that's how my category would fit. The bottom here, I ended up doing a little bit of a mushroom design. I got the idea from Maritime Bujo. I'll have her channel just linked down below, of using Canva to create different designs. So I went on there and I found different mushroom designs and came up with this little collage and penciled out on the back, flipped it over, and roughed the outside lines with my pencil on the front, and it's going to create that transfer paper. If you haven't seen this trick already, I also did it in my October Winnie the Pooh theme, and it worked wonders for characters. It really added that realistic element, and it ends up feeling a little bit more like drawing in the lines like you were when you were a little kid. So it makes it really easy, especially when you're trying out a brand new medium or wanting to practice detailed lines, which is what my goal is this month. You can tell that I'm doing that with my really itty bitty skinny paint brush, size 000. And here I am just using the colors mostly in browns and red tones. If you don't know how to make brown, or you don't have it in your pack of colors, you just end up mixing equal portions of red, blue, and yellow. And that's gonna get you that brown color. If you notice that your brown is a little bit too red, you want to offset it with the opposite color from the color wheel. So the opposite of red is going to be green. How do you get green? By mixing in more blue and yellow. So that's just a little tip for you if you're ever trying to create some paint colors. And then if you want to make it darker, add your black in there. Lighter, add a little bit of white in there, and that's where you get those highlights and shades on the different mushrooms that we're looking at right now. I have found it very helpful to focus the shade part of it on one side of the mushroom and the highlight on the other. I am no expert by any means when it comes to painting, but that is just some things that have helped this beginner over here, and I hope that I can help you start off something like that as well. I ended up chatting about my student planner in my Why I Stopped Bullet Journaling video last week. And I wanted to start creating digital products to sell, specifically starting with student planners, and that is what my goal is for May. So I'm creating this project layout in my bullet journal. It's a collection that I'm going to be testing out for the first time really in my planner to see how it goes. This spread might look a little familiar because I actually stole it from my fitness tracker video. This is my period tracker that I gave in the example there, but I've rejigged it to work with what I need. I liked the layout and flexibility that it provided me, but I switched up a few elements. So that top part is dedicated specifically for May tasks that I want to get done. These boxes, which I did make a little mistake and cleaned it up with my jelly roll, really easy, quick hack to fix a little bit of mistakes in there. I've dedicated to look a little bit more like a habit tracker for 3 specific categories: planner, production, and promotion. And each day, if I color it in, it means I did something related to that specific category. That is going to help me stay on track and make sure that I can get the student planner out by the time July comes. At the bottom here, I am just going in with another small box. For me, my brain will get very jumbled and forget things if it's not written down on a piece of paper. So I've absolutely loved using my bullet journal for that. And I am leaving this bottom section specifically dedicated towards June tasks. This is going to help me stay organized, and maybe it's not something I can get done in the month of May, but I can save it for the month of June. So writing it down so I don't forget it. On the right, I am dedicating this spread specifically for my goals related to YouTube, blog, and Instagram. The one thing that I really love about having a specific page dedicated towards my goals is it helps keep me a bit more accountable. And I just sectioned the page off into 3 equal sections because I want to keep 3 categories of goals, but you can always switch this page up depending upon how many goals you have, or completely remove it if you are not tracking your goals at all. When looking at what goals to track and how to come up with your goal, I always like to have about 3 to 4 tasks for one specific category that I want to get done in the month. That translates to about 1 task a week for each goal. And then what I also like to do as well is make sure that those goals that I'm trying to get are actually within my control. Because if it's based on what somebody else can do or the environment that I'm in, it's not always able to happen, and I don't have any control over it, which just adds a little bit of stress to my life that is not necessary. So that is just how I help get my goals a little bit easier for me and more achievable and attainable and likely to happen. It wouldn't be a bullet journal of mine if I didn't have a gratitude log. I have been listening to the podcast recently called The Perfectionism Project, and it has talked about on a recent episode the way that your mind is framed to look at life. Your mind and thoughts shape your emotions and behaviors, which shape your actions. And that is really true. So for me personally, at least, if I'm having a really negative outlook on something, then I'm always going to be searching for the negative. And that's what's kind of commented on in this specific podcast episode that I was listening to, and it really resonated with me, which is one thing that I really love about my gratitude log. It just puts me in the mindset and mind frame of being positive. Not all entries that I put down are positive. Some of them just end up being, I'm really happy for the environment that I have, where I'm able to break down and cry and be supported during an emotional and hard time. So that also is what makes my gratitude log. Not all of them can be happy, but they are happy overall. The walking tracker is something that I added into my April plan with me, and I wanted to switch it up just a little bit. I really like having a walking tracker and seeing exactly how many steps I'm getting in, but one thing that I figured out last month in particular is that one, I didn't have enough categories. I only had 3 categories, and I didn't really know how many steps I was walking. And 2, the colors that I ended up using to fill in my coffee cup were not different enough. So it was sometimes a little confusing exactly how many steps I got. So that is something that I wanted to switch up this month. I haven't yet figured out exactly what colors I want to use. So if you have any suggestions on what colors I should choose to fill in these little circles throughout the month, let me know just down in the comments below, because I am feeling very indecisive over here. I have to say, I think this is my favorite spread so far out of all of them. Don't tell the other spreads, but this is it. I really loved how this one turned out. And you can always switch this up into being more of a mood tracker if that's your cup of tea. Definitely not mine, as we probably know by now. But if you're new, I don't really like mood trackers. Up at the top is just the legend, so I broke that down into 2,000 step increments to help me really see exactly where my steps are going. The right side of the page here, I started off with these little mini mushroom designs, and the reason that I did this is because I end up putting the border of the page all in red, and I wanted to know exactly what to paint around for my little decorative piece. So if you haven't seen this little tip or trick before for creating really crisp lines in your journal, I end up using washi tape. This is so satisfying, pulling it away and seeing those crisp lines. but you are always able to freehand it as well if that is something you are trying to practice in your journal. Up at the top, I wanted to have the word plant tracker all done out, but because I had my red paint there, I ended up grabbing a scrap piece of paper just from the back of my journal, ripped that out and penciled out exactly how big I wanted everything to be, coming over top with my pens. After that, I came in with my scissors and glued it into my journal. Now, I ended up using a glue stick tape thing versus the actual glue stick because it's less messy and not gunky fingers, so happy me. A reflection tracker is something that is now becoming a staple in my journal, and here is just where I get to really write down all of my thoughts every single week on what's going on. This month I'm going to be sectioning out this page just a little bit different, and the first box I'm dedicating specifically for more introspective questions, things that are really going to look at my life and kind of look at who I am as a person, where I can then just journal them out throughout the week or pick a specific day and fix those questions up. Now, I haven't completely decided what questions I'm going to include. That is what this box is specifically dedicated for. I'm going to come back to it when I have a bit more time to figure out exactly what I want to focus on for the month of May. At the bottom, I wrote down, even in dark and damp conditions, we can thrive. So, fun fact about mushrooms, that is actually where they thrive, in dark and damp conditions. So I thought this would be the perfect quote for both a reflection on one's self. I did end up coming in with washi tape for my other sections because my first line was a little bit messy and I wanted cleaner lines, so I did use that trick just to keep those lines nice and crisp. With my Jelly Roll pen, I came in over top with week 1, 2, 3, and 4 lettering, just nice and simple. I really love how the Jelly Roll pen layers over top of the gouache paint, really simple and easy. I did end up leaving just a few lines to write down what my thoughts were, and I found that this layout worked really well for me last month, so why fix what is not broken? This is going to be the very first weekly that I'm showing off in my bullet journal. All of the other weeklies I'm going to be putting in next week's video. So if you want a reminder on when that's getting posted, just hit that subscribe button and the bell button because it'll give you a notification when it's posted. Up at the top, I just wrote out week 1 and then left a box area for the different tasks that I want to get done throughout the week that might not have a dedicated day. Or what I'm also thinking this could be used for is a mini grocery list, meal tracker, things like that as well. But only time will tell what I really end up using this space for. The rest of the page I ended up dividing horizontally into 3 different boxes to represent the first 3 days of the week. I was feeling like we were missing a little bit of the yellow that I had from my cover page in the majority of the spread, so why not bring it in for the very last one? So that's how I created those boxes and then broke the boxes off into the left and right. The left I'm going to be putting in specifically for my goals and the right side specifically for my tasks. So that's just how I'm going to use the weekly spread. The quote ends up saying, "All good things are wild and free," just up at the bottom. And I'm really happy with how this weekly's and really the whole theme turned out. I'm happy that I went a little out of my comfort zone using those bright colors and trying gouache again in my bullet journal. If you ended up watching up until this point of the video, the super secret emoji is going to be a mushroom. So comment that down below, a little mushroom emoji, if you have watched up till this point. Okay, enough talking, and I'm gonna let you just watch the flip through now.
Well, that's it. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, just make sure to hit that like button and subscribe as well if you're interested in seeing more videos. I have a whole playlist. I'll just link right there and up above in the cards for other Plan With Me videos if you're interested. Stay tuned for next week where I'm going to be showing you all of my weekly spreads for May. I've never done this before. I'm really interested to see how you guys like it. And that's really it. Bye!